on today's StoryBeat.
The other thing I would say is redefine no. So we all have the choice in the story of our lives to say no means this or no means that. No means next, like, that wasn't the right thing anyway, do something else, right? Go on. Or no means no for now, come back to it later. Or maybe this person and I will do something later, right? No means nothing. I don't care how many people say no. I know what I have is a yes.
This is StoryBeat with Steve Cuden, a podcast for the creative mind. StoryBeat explores how masters of creativity develop and produce brilliant works that people everywhere love and admire. So join us as we discover how talented creators find success in the worlds of imagination and entertainment. Here now is your host, Steve Cuden.
Thanks for joining us on StoryBeat. We're coming to you from the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My guest today, Amy Powers, is a Harvard-trained lawyer, Columbia University MBA, best-selling author, Emmy-nominated songwriter, theater and film producer, online business owner, coach, and connector. After discovering that being a lawyer fed her bank account but starved her soul, she ditched that life to begin writing lyrics, finding multi-platinum success with artists from Barbie to Barbara Streisand. Freelance life brought its own challenges: unpredictable income, uncontrollable marketplace changes, and too few hours spent with her husband and sons. She yearned to increase her revenue, decrease her stress, and have more flexibility. That's when she discovered network marketing through a company that aligned with her core values of healthy living inside and out. After following her company's blueprint to create an extra six-figure revenue stream and seven-figure asset, Amy felt called to reach a wider audience and assist others looking for solutions. Amy's book, No Degree Required: Network Marketing the Ivy League Way, is a #1 Amazon bestseller. I've read No Degree Required and can tell you it's a fast-paced and entertaining look at network marketing. I highly recommend No Degree Required to anyone interested in the world of network marketing or looking for inspiration in it. Additionally, Amy and her husband, J. Todd Harris, co-produce in both theater and film. On stage, they've co-produced Heathers the Musical, Phenomenal Woman, the Maya Angelou Story, the Broadway-bound Hippest Trip, the Soul Train Musical, and a revival of her own Broadway musical, Dr. Zhivago. Their work in film includes On Fire, the acclaimed autobiography of world-renowned inspirational speaker John O'Leary. Amy's newest venture, Amy Sent Me, a health and happiness concierge service, helps people up-level their lives and businesses with hand-picked, pre-vetted services from psychic mediums to sober coaches, book writing to boudoir photography, and health reboots to healing retreats. Please be sure to stick around at the end of the show because Amy has generously lent us one of her songs, The Sands of Time, for you to enjoy. So for all those reasons and many more, it's a true privilege to chat with the excellent, multi-talented writer, lyricist, lawyer, and businesswoman, Amy Powers. Amy, welcome to StoryBeat.
Thank you so much, Steve.
It is my great pleasure to have you here. So let's go back in time just a little bit. At what age did you realize you were a creative person? How old were you when you started to create?
Well, the quick answer is I really didn't get it until I was almost 30.
Wow.
Right. So in my timeline, I did the lawyer, business school, all that stuff. And that was years and years of graduate school. I did not understand that the little ditties that I was writing, the songs, filling in words of my own to popular songs that I was when I was bored in classes, that was actually a thing, that it was actually showing me a talent. So I just continued to do that until I hit a proverbial wall on Wall Street, actually. I was working for a big New York firm, and it was in my late 20s. And that was when I had to take some time off because I got physically ill doing that kind of job at that kind of pace. It just was not a fit for me. And so I was in bed and looking for something to do to pass the time as I got better. And I had, luckily, a wonderful boyfriend at the time who had studied with Tom Lehrer. I'm not sure if you remember Tom Lehrer,
Tom Lehrer,
parodist, right, and musical theater writer as well. And my boyfriend said to me, those crazy little things that you've been writing in your books that I found from your school times, I'm looking at them and I think that you'd actually enjoy writing a song. Why don't you try it? And so one day I went into the pen and paper in hand. I went into a trance for 3 hours as I sat down to try to do this. And then when I came out of the trance, and that was my first trance ever, needless to say, that was a surprising experience too. But when I came out of the trance, there was a lyric on the paper.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the song that changed my life. Many
people will call that being in the zone.
Correct. But if you've never been in the zone and you don't know there is a zone, it's even a bigger shock.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Especially if you spent a long time going down one road and then you realize, oh, there are actually superhighways in the other direction.
Because several hours seemed like 1 second.
Right.
And that's what that is.
That's why I knew that my life was never going to be the same. Because whatever that feeling was, that's the feeling I wanted.
So you were practicing law on Wall Street?
Yeah. Well, with a Wall Street type firm called White and Case.
Okay.
I was practicing real estate finance law. I can think of nothing less of a fit for who I really am. But it was paying the bills magnificently. Did
you think of yourself, and maybe you didn't because you didn't come to this realization later, did you think of yourself as a creative lawyer?
No.
No, you were contracts and it was nuts and bolts and all those things.
Right. I really was a different person on a different path.
Were you always, even as a kid, musically oriented though?
Not exactly, although I have very fond memories of singing Gilbert and Sullivan in the car, my dad and mom and my brother. What else? I went to arts camps and I did crazy things like I learned the Elements song. That is a Tom Lehrer song. Do you know that?
Yes, I do know.
Do you want to sing it with me right now?
No, I don't know it off by heart. I'm familiar with it. I know which song you mean.
Okay.
So no, we're not. And believe me, no one wants to hear me sing anything.
Nobody wants to hear me sing anything either. That's the other thing that's great about being a lyricist is you don't have to.
Exactly. You can kind of massage your way through it, but nobody wants to hear it.
Right.
But
the Element song is learning. It has every single element on the periodic table.
Right.
In song.
Well, he was extremely clever. Wasn't he the Vatican rag?
Yes.
Yes, the Vatican rag. He was brilliant. And that was sort of the 60s and 70s. He was like on that counterculture edge, and yet he didn't look or act counterculture, but his work was.
Right. I actually think he was a Harvard professor at one time.
I think he was.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a genius. He was a brilliant man.
Right. And one of those people who just showed us that you don't have to be one thing or another. You can be one thing and another.
Well, I think that that's true for a lot of artists who have to support their art by doing other things. And I don't think that's unusual to have artists be multi-talented, multi-dimensional in some way. When did you start to think about musicals? Did you like musicals as a kid?
Well, again, the sun will come out tomorrow. Oh, I said I wouldn't sing. Okay. So, yes, I liked musicals, but was I ever thinking that was my path? No. The interesting thing was that as soon as I had written this one lyric, my boyfriend, and if you're listening, Joshua Hornick, thank you so much.
Shout out to Joshua Hornick. He
said, I've heard that there is a workshop for people who want to learn how to write musicals. And we were living in New York at the time, and it was the BMI Musical Theater Workshop.
The BMI Lehman Engel Workshop.
That's right, which is an incredible program. And I actually, sort of out of the blue, I finished the music to that one song myself, which took a long time because I'm not really a musician. And then I sent in that one song and 2 parodies so that they already knew what the songs would sound like. And I was admitted to the workshop.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was sort of like, I don't know, just an out of the blue gift from God, as it were. And then I had to go to my boss and say, hey, can I take every Monday afternoon off? Do you mind? I have to do this thing. So I did manage both for a while. And really, it was less thought, more action that got me into the musical theater game.
So it sounds to me like music and musicals suddenly became a calling for you. Did it feel that way to you?
Of course, I wasn't thinking about doing anything else with those songs because and this desire, because it went right in there. It was just one moment this, another moment that.
Well, most people have no idea what to do with the talent they have until they figure it out. And sometimes that takes a while. Some people know right away, but many people have no idea for quite some time.
Right. I mean, I've seen it both ways. There are people in my own family. My own son, for instance, Jasper, started writing songs when he was 8, started composing music. That was not me, right? Like he's always known he wants to do that and only that. But a lot of people come to it differently.
But somehow it's somewhat, I think, genetically passed down because you have that talent. So then he gets some kind of nurture, nature, whatever it is, talent passed down to him. And I've heard some of his music, and holy mackerel, he is a great composer and artist.
Not in musical theater though.
No, but that's okay.
Yet, I should say, yet. But I do think it's actually a combo of nature and nurture, because he was surrounded by music his whole life.
Sure.
And I started in musical theater and didn't stay there. So, I think there's the everything of it. Yeah.
And he had the advantage of knowing that it was okay to do this kind of thing because you were doing it.
That's a very interesting observation. Yes, he did. And also, I held my tongue judiciously, assiduously about the challenges of being in this kind of business and the up and down nature of it, and what things are really eventually out of our control, right? I did not want to stifle him as a creator by letting him know some of the more practical stuff that was complicated.
Well, I've long said that it's not a business for the faint of heart or weak of stomach. That's for sure.
100%.
If you can't hack getting rejected or not being heard at all, you may not be interested in this business because it's too hard otherwise.
Right.
You have to be willing to weather that. So how long did you work at writing lyrics, including in the workshop and beyond, before you felt like, hey, you know what? I am pretty good at this. Maybe I can make a go at it. How long did that take you to get that feeling?
It sort of came almost right away, interestingly enough, because the workshop had a number of people who all they'd done their entire lives was music. This was the pinnacle of success for them, was getting into a place where they could have tremendous education from people who'd been there on Broadway, et cetera. So I was sort of pushed from the get-go to get my game on.
Well, it's a big deal to get in the BMI Lehman angle. It's a huge deal.
I didn't know that, though. But yeah, so there's bunches and bunches of people who apply for it. So I was automatically I remember one of my first writing partners there was Andrew Lippa.
Sure.
Everybody there ups your game for you. And because that's all they're talking about, thinking about, eating, drinking, sleeping, musical theater, it becomes it. I credit the workshop for demanding us to choose a year-long project that we would do as a final project for our second year. And I ended up working with Megan Cavallari, who's also in the workshop, and I met a great librettist outside the workshop, David Topchick, and he came in and we wrote a version of Dangerous Liaisons as a musical.
Oh, wow. And
yeah, it's called The Game. And we wrote it for the workshop originally, but then we were asked to have it produced down at Cap 21 at the Tisch School. So with Frank Ventura. So we had a production from a workshop situation that was really not supposed to be public. And then things just sort of spiraled from there.
Well, isn't that how it works? Sometimes one thing leads to another and you're not anticipating that chain of events happening. It just happens.
Right.
And I think that is how the arts work a lot of the time.
Yes. And it's that one person in the audience who sees something, right? Who does something. In this case, it was actually Jerry Schoenfeld from the Schubert Organization.
Wow. Okay.
The audience. Right. So, and then he introduced me to Andrew Lloyd Webber of all people. So,
yes.
It was a thing. It was just a roller coaster and I was on it.
Well, and he now has a theater named for him, the Schoenfeld Theater, which used to be the Plymouth Theater, which is where Jekyll and Hyde ran for 4 years in the 90s.
Oh my goodness. See, we're connected.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm curious, when you think about songs, what for you makes one song good but another not? What makes a good song good to you?
Well, I'm one of those hook people. I mean, if it doesn't stick in your ear musically and lyrically, if the hook isn't there, there's nothing, right?
It's hard to remember it.
Hard to forget it.
Hard to forget it, sure.
But yeah, can't forget it. It says something. Here's to the ladies who lunge. It says something that means something to you, right? And you get it, you never forget it.
If it gets into your and under your skin as a listener, then you win.
I've got you under my skin.
It'll never work.
Do you know how Somewhere Over the Rainbow actually was not going to be in the movie of The Wizard of Oz? They had to fight and fight and fight to keep it in. You know this story?
I think I do know the story, but that doesn't surprise me. But people don't know before they know, and that's a huge story with many musicals. People write a song, it goes into a musical, they take it back out of the musical, and later on they put it back in, and they know they needed it in. And that happens frequently because you don't know until you know when an audience tells you, right?
Right. But if you heard Somewhere Over the Rainbow and you didn't understand that this was something magical, then you didn't have ears.
But think about that period at MGM with all of those writers writing all those classic songs. It was just another classic song until somebody went, wow, that's really special. But it would have just been part of that parade of songs.
Yes. Well, there was a huge spiritual dump of magnificence in that era, right?
Absolutely.
And same thing with Brill Building. There was just great stuff going on. Yes, it could have gotten lost in the sauce.
And do we have anything like that today? I don't think we do. I mean, maybe Nashville, I don't know where it is anymore, where there's a hub of artists all gathered together, pounding out material. It's sort of not there anymore. We kind of need it.
There are songwriting camps, and there are places to go. Labels will do them, and also BMI and ASCAP do them in different cities. But it's not the same, and it's not the everyday. You're down the hall. Let's knock on this door and play this and see who thinks what about that. Or it's not the same. I know there was a golden age. We're living in a different metal.
Yeah, there'd be 30 would-be geniuses all working in the same place, and they were pushing each other. It's just like Laurel Canyon back in the 70s was pushing artists to do great things in rock and roll. So do you prefer writing one-off songs, or do you prefer writing musicals? Which is more fun for you?
That's a really interesting question, because it's like a snack versus a meal, I think I'd say. Yeah.
It's much more. It's much more than a meal. It's many meals on a musical.
But what I mean is this: one-off songs are snacky, yum yum, right?
Yes.
And they're great, but musicals are, well, if they're done right, they're like the banquet. It's not just a meal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Then the banquet that people keep coming to. And as a creator, it's a lot. Oh, this is what's come to mind as the answer to that. Ready? I have a friend who's a chef. She's not just a chef. Her company has served everything from White House inaugurations to weddings to this, that, and the other. What she prepares takes a long time, and it's delicious, right? Not without its ways it could go wrong. It's
Sure.
like a meal, right? It's exhausting even to think about what Pam does, but it's impressive. That's different than me going and making a shake for a minute in my blender and drinking it. Pop songs are like shakes, right? Musicals are that they take everything. And in terms of one or the other, it's not an either or for me. It's a both and.
Well, and you're writing songs that have to support both character and story, and not just some wonderful ephemeral notion for a song.
Correct. So pop songs can be more fun one-off songs can be more fun, but there's something more satisfying about when you get every piece in its place and every song does its job, and and you're moving things along like that. It's great. It just takes 14 years or 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years at least, really. It's a crazy business to be in, that is for sure. I'll ask you the question that I ask lyricists and songwriters. It's do you prefer to write the lyrics first or the music first? Which is better for you?
Oh, well, that depends. I mean, first of all, so I do lyrics and melodies, right?
Right.
And I love working with people. It's very energizing for me. A lot of people don't feel that way. They sort of like to go into their cave and stay there and then give it to somebody, right? Like Bernie Taupin used to do with Elton John.
Sure, of course.
Right? Like, this is my thing. Here, go set a melody to.
Or Gilbert and Sullivan.
Gilbert and Sullivan, exactly. They didn't like each other. Those guys.
They hated each other. Yeah.
So, but their stuff was still fantastic. I'm a let's play together type. So it doesn't matter what comes first. If someone comes to me with a melody, I will hear the words, and then I'll sometimes also offer to change bits of the melody and say, hey, I heard it this way, actually. Is that okay?
I think that's called research and development. That's the development part of the song. And if you are open to development as an artist, then you continue. And if you are working with a collaborator, you kind of need to be flexible, don't you?
Depends on who you are.
Of course. But I'm saying it's helpful.
If you are already a highly successful, let's say, composer, and you have a particular way of doing things, you don't have to do anything any other way. But would it have been better if you were more open and playful? Probably.
Well, I know that story well, and we're not going down that road, but nevertheless, I do know that story. So do you then have a regular routine, or is your routine always different?
Always different, except I have a couple of habits, right?
Like what? What are your habits?
First habit is whenever I get inspired to write something, I have to get it out of my body and onto a paper or a voice note right away. Otherwise, I will forget it. Mm-hmm. It's been that way for many, many years.
Do you carry something with you all the time that will allow you to jot it down or to record it? Phone.
Yes, it's there and then it's not there. The heavens open and then they close again. At least that's the way it is for me. So that's one thing. Always get it out. That's a habit of mine. Get it out right away. And then the other thing would be, the second thing that I would do is write now, edit later. Get it all out, all the ideas out right away. And then don't think, oh, this really couldn't be. What is the next line? Oh, I'll skip things. I'll have a start and then a middle something, and then maybe something that could go at the end. And then I'll just fill them in later.
You believe in purging out what you need to purge out and then cutting later.
Hilarious. Wait, it's hilarious that you say that, Steve, because I used to call my drafts vomit drafts.
Well, lots of people do. Oh. Annie Lamott, who's a very well-known author,
yeah, sure,
wrote a book called Bird by Bird, which is about writing. And in it, she has an entire chapter called Shitty First Drafts.
It's just that thing.
It's just that thing. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. You purge it out and then you shape the thing after you've purged it out.
Right. And if you're doing it with somebody else, you shape it with them and you play that ping pong back and forth.
Of course. That's the beauty part of the collaboration, is that you do. That's assuming you're not going back a step to the person who's stuck in their ways. But if you're working with somebody who's ping ponging, that's really great.
Yes. And that's, by the way, a way to discern who you want to be writing with. Are they the kind of person who likes to play ping pong?
It's a bit of a marriage, isn't it?
It's not just a bit. It's all the things of a marriage.
Well, I hope it's not all of the things of a marriage.
Oh, no, except for that
one. Unless you're actually married to that person,
Yeah. No, I was thinking contractually and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So what do you think you've learned from this process up till now, all of your various processes, that you think is the way that you want to keep doing things? Is it this collaboration effort, or what have you learned that you now know that it took you a while maybe to figure out that you go, yep, this is the way to do it?
I think that I have learned trust in myself and trust in my collaborators. And it's interesting because I didn't always trust my collaborators. And as I was going through the process, I worked with many, many, many people. So when I started that, I sort of started at the top first with the great people at BMI, and then I had that Andrew Lloyd Webber experience. And after the thing with Andrew, I decided I was going to start to write pop music. And I went through literally hundreds of collaborators.
Wow.
Yeah, because I had to find the right fit. It was like dating. Sometimes it's right. Sometimes it's a disaster, right?
Yeah. Well, that's you're looking for a mate.
Yes. So I learned to trust my instincts as to who to choose. Hopefully, like dating, you get better at knowing who's right, who's wrong.
Well, isn't it part of that the elimination process is, okay, I know that I met this person, that person was not right for me, and here's why, if you can analyze it. And then the next person comes along and is sort of the same thing, and you go, well, no, I already know I'm eliminating that. And then you move on to the next person until you find something that just fits perfectly.
Exactly. Right. So in my case, it's people who are ego-free in their writing, who do not have anything precious about what they're presenting, or or people who are are completely open to what you're offering, and have a good sense of awareness and humor about what they're offering when it's not so good, right? And people who are going to uplift, make me better.
They compliment you. They don't use the same systems of way of working. They compliment you in some way.
Right. Like, here's a great example of that. So I wrote Dr. Zhivago, the musical, with Lucy Simon, the late great, and just love her, and Michael Corey. So Michael had never co-written before. I had experience writing hundreds and hundreds of pop songs with people as a co-writer, as a co-lyricist even, right? Because sometimes the people who are composers also write lyrics. So sometimes we do that dance together.
Right.
But Michael had never had that. He was a great librettist for opera and musical theater, but and he was a great lyricist, but he also just wrote alone, and most of the time, and all the time. And I was able to say, hey, look, let's play in this sandbox together. I'll bring what I have, which is a very emotional, pop-based sensibility. You bring what you have, which is a more intellectual, operatic sensibility, and let's see where we can go with that.
Well, I think if you can figure that out, that's ideal.
Yeah. So we had strengths that were complementary. And that's, I think, what you're really looking for.
Well, that is, when you are complementing one another, it's a very useful thing to have in a relationship, because if you're not complementing each other, it's torture.
Again, like a marriage.
Like a marriage, exactly right. Of the three legs of a musical, you have a libretto and then you have music. Which is more important, the book, the music, or the lyrics?
Oh, well, you need all the legs. And by the way,
Thank you.
Me say that Michael Weller actually wrote the book for the musical of Dr. Zhivago. Michael Corey assisted a lot in the shaping of that, but we are technically listed as co-lyricists. And it doesn't really matter who does what, right? It doesn't matter who's credited as what. Everybody needs their own part to be strong. Librettists are the unsung heroes of musical theater. We know that if there are great songs and the book fizzles, it's just not going to hold up. But right, it's not going to hold up through time. You might have an isolated song that people will remember, but not the whole thing.
Well, the book writers are usually screwed, because the old adage is, if people love a musical, they come out singing the tunes. And if they don't like a musical, they blame the book writer.
Yes. Also true. Also true. And, it's hard for me to name book writers, actually, as there are fewer heroes and famous book writers in my mind right now. Can you think of?
Yeah, Hugh Wheeler is one, but there are John Weidman is one. There are many cases where the lyricist is also the book writer. So Lerner and Lowe, Rogers and Hammerstein, Hammerstein and Lerner were writing the books as well. But yes, it's true. It's very hard to find known book writers. Tommy Meehan was a famous book writer of many musicals that were very successful.
It's not sexy.
No, it's hard work and it's thankless because you're sort of getting out of the way for all of that. You have to have a story that works, but you're also then getting out of the way for the things that the people came to the theater to see and hear, which are the songs and the dance numbers.
Exactly. If you don't do your job, people really won't be moved in the same way. And that's why they come out crabby, but they're not going to come out going, wow, that guy.
Well, yeah, they don't remember the book at all, other than somehow it worked. But they remember the music and lyrics because the music taps into your emotional core that a story may not, or lines of dialogue might not. But the music will tap into your emotional core and will stay with you. That's why the composer has such an advantage over everybody. That's why people remember Andrew Lloyd Webber's name, but may not remember Tim Rice.
Right, unless they're in the business.
Well, if they're in the business, they definitely know. But I'm talking about the general public. They may not know the name of the person that wrote the lyrics.
No, and they may assume that it's him. Well, going all the way back into the days of early animation, everybody thought Walt Disney did everything. Because he only had his name on the movies until later on they started putting credits. And so it's the same kind of thing where, somebody gets all of the credit for something. Yes.
And musicals are certainly like that. All right. So what are the biggest challenges that for you are in writing 20 or more songs that have to stick to a theme, be in character, and adhere to a storyline? What are those big challenges for you?
Making sure you don't sound like the same voice when it's different characters.
Very good.
I would say that's the first thing in writing a musical, that there's enough differentiation and you have to keep hammering it home with your collaborators. And
are you hoping when you're writing a musical that there is already a really good, strong storyline so that you can find those characters and you can find that stuff? Or have you worked on musicals in which there really wasn't much of a story and you're just sort of finding everything with everybody?
I have worked on things where you're finding it and it's no fun. It's so much better to have the bones already there than to be trying to build the bones in the songs at the same time.
So there, once again, the book writer is doing all the labor up front and everybody else is trying to figure out how to make that work.
That's why it's really nice to do a thing that's already been successful in another genre, like Dangerous Liaisons, like Dr. Zhivago, right? Or it could be something that's successfully created mostly before you get there. Like I did maybe 10 years of Barbie movies, all the Barbie musicals that a whole generation of girls grew up with. I worked on with Megan Cavallari. Again, they wanted someone who is musical theater-esque when we started. And so that's how that collaboration started. And then there was a great corporate guy who was also a songwriter before he was in corporate, named Rob Hudnut, and he would work with us, and sometimes a pop guy named Gabriel Mann. And we would do these things as they were doing drafts of the story. We got to say, okay, we think you need a song here that can do this. This is what we think the characters should be expressing. This is the point of it, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes it can be really exciting to be more in the creative process when it's like taffy, but sometimes it's better to have the whole structure laid out there.
So then what is your technique or method for song spotting? How do you find those places where this should be a song, not dialogue? Do you have a technique for that?
It's intuitive. It's emotional and intuitive. I think the more you do, the more you know. Sometimes, this is really crazy, but in the Mattel things, they wanted us to be able to sell dolls. That was the point.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. They were making the entertainment to sell the dolls.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely had to have certain things for certain characters that were going to be run off in the millions, and kids could walk home with them in their baskets.
Of course.
Or have them delivered to by Amazon. So that was going to be an informative choice.
Do you find that you have to do a lot of research to get to the core of a song, even if it has a story behind it already? Or are you, again, is it mostly intuitive?
Sometimes. I mean, when Michael, Corey, and I were writing Zhivago, we were poring over what was happening on the Russian front with soldiers, with, what was the attitude towards the royal family, all kinds of crazy stuff. You don't always have to do that, though. I mean, and that's what makes it different from pop song too, right? Like I said, snack versus meal/banquet.
Oh, well, no question. And when you're doing the meal/banquet, that is, you're all in, and it takes a long time to do it. So you better like what you're doing, or you've got a problem.
And the people you're doing it with.
Of course. And naturally, if you don't like the people you're doing with it, that's just miserable. So when you're working in theater, as you've done a certain amount of, and in the Barbie world as well, there would be naturally a certain amount of pressure that comes with the job. You come under time pressure, you come under artistic pressure, you come under various forms of pressure. How do you deal with pressure? What do you do?
Sleep.
Sleep.
Something's too much, I just take a nap and then start.
Could you do that in the middle of a day when you're working with people? Could you just go take a nap?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. Creatives are, we get to be quirky, right? Or how's this? If you can't take a nap, take a pee break.
Oh.
Walk out of the room. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
Walk out of the room, go to the bathroom, do whatever, even if you don't have to go to the bathroom, just go wash your hands, clear your head, walk a few steps, get centered back in yourself, and then go back into that situation.
I tend to go take a walk.
I love that too. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
What happens is I get bollocksed up, and I need to just have some fresh air, and I need to change the view, so to speak.
Right. So, for instance, on Dr. Zhivago, Lucy Simon actually lived in a building overlooking Central Park. So sometimes we would just go to Central Park.
Go to Central Park. Well, that's a very nice place to take a walk.
It is a great place.
All right. So once you have a libretto that you're happy with, or you're ready to give to the producers and say, okay, we're ready to show this to you, which may come in steps, but it may also come all at one time. What do you then do at that moment to prepare for the next step?
Well, there was a time when I would say drink heavily, but I don't do that anymore. But also when you were asking the question, I was thinking, well, actually it comes out more in parts. Sometimes we'll present a few scenes or the first act, or it's not all, it's not all or nothing.
Well, you're going to make changes along the way. And
every time you see it, if you're reading it or if you have the luxury of having other people reading and singing for you, 100 things are going to flood into your head about what you need to do next. So it's not, what do you do to prepare? Expect change. Expect that what you thought was so sacred an hour ago isn't really. And that also, as I'm sure you know, being a writer in various genres, you know that the people who you're dependent on to produce the work or direct the work or both are going to have very strong opinions, and it's sometimes going to be insistent opinions.
Oh, for sure.
Find a way to do what they are asking, even if it's not what you necessarily would have chosen yourself, just to show them, here it is.
Well, it can be glorious and painful all at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's just part and parcel of the job, is that you're going to get notes, and some of those notes are going to be painful because you've worked long and hard on something, and now somebody's tearing it apart in some way.
Yes, you're killing your darlings.
They are killing your darlings sometimes, and that really is painful. How important is casting to getting your work right?
Oh, it's everything. It changes everything. When you said that, the person who popped into my head was Sara Ramirez, who we were lucky enough to have in our Dangerous Liaisons musical, The Game, the first time we did it up in the Berkshires. And she walked into the room and owned the role in a way that even we hadn't ever imagined. She sang one song called Wanting Her More, and my eyes opened up about the truth of this character, the passion, the power, and the danger, and the essence of this character. And that changed the writing and rewriting for future drafts as well.
So she influenced the way that you continue to write the work.
100%.
I think that's fascinating when someone comes in and changes the way you look at your own work. Mm-hmm. And you had no idea that was coming your way.
Doing theater is collaborative in every way. You just don't know who's going to unlock more at any time.
Well, that's right. And you start out in a group of 2 or 3 writing book music lyrics. Maybe it's more than that, but usually it's 2 or 3. And then suddenly it becomes many. You've got designers, you've got the director, you've got producers.
Right.
And all the performers and the orchestra and everything else. So suddenly it's dozens of people are involved and you're all collaborating, pulling toward one goal. And that's to put on the best show you can. Hopefully. Well, yeah. I mean, isn't that is the goal, isn't it? To come off with something that works and have it be great?
It's always the goal, but I have been in situations where I didn't see eye to eye with the director, let's say. And that's very painful.
How did you deal with it? What is your technique for managing that?
I wish I could say that there was a good way of dealing with that. Because when you have put so much time and effort into something and then somebody is taking it in a direction as a director, let's say, that you didn't intend, you can't pretend that it's what you want. I think in that kind of case, the best thing you can do is wait and do another production.
But so your 2 visions have now crossed in some way that are not conducive to the whole. And so you're saying, okay, wait it out, let this thing go out. And I'll use a word I don't really mean in the worst way, but you basically are letting it find its way out the door so that you can go find another production.
That's right. Because if you believe enough in your material, it's worth it to recreate it if for some reason that you couldn't control, it's going in sideways to your mind.
I think that's quite valuable advice for people who are creating anything, that sometimes you just have to let it ride for a while. Right. You can also, and there are many, many stories of people just going at each other and bumping heads for a long time.
Oh, yes. If you're that kind of person. I'm a pacifist by nature. You won't find me in the ring much. I will go to, I shouldn't say that. I'll go to the mat for my lyrics. But if I see that the power structure, the dynamic is one in which it's impossible for me to win, I'm not going to fight, right?
You'll sit back and find some smart way to get them to see what you are thinking.
Hopefully, or I'll just have to reinvent that work some other way, some other time. What I don't want to do is waste my life energy fighting impossible fights.
Mm-hmm.
I'll fight a possible fight.
Well, you're going to defend your work, but you're not going to bring harm to yourself in doing it.
Not emotional harm. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Well, hopefully nobody's actually physically harming you. But
it was 50 cups. Yeah.
This was the greatest musical ever written as they pounded one another into the ground. Let's talk for a moment about No Degree Required. Tell the listeners what that's about. What is network marketing and how are you involved in it? And why did you write a book about it?
Okay. What is network marketing? A very smart way for people, including creative people, since that's probably who's listening to your podcast, for people to create additional revenue in this crazy time financially in the world, right? So network marketing is it's a very old model that many companies have renewed and are using now to great effect, especially with online sales, where you become a representative, an independent representative for a company that hopefully that aligns with, you know, your values and what you like to do and use in life. It could be a service, it could be products, and it allows you to be part of something bigger without having to create the thing yourself, which is what I think is so genius. I was, for instance, offered an opportunity to get into a network marketing company back in 2010. And I had been seeing both my independent film producer husband's financial lives going up and down, because we couldn't control the basic economy, and we certainly couldn't control what was going on in the world at large. It was sort of like what's happening now with the strike, right?
Yes.
With the writer's strike. And
Amy is talking about right now, while we're recording this show, we're in the middle of the Writers Guild of America has struck against all of the producers.
Right. So some people don't have any work. So I was brought this opportunity, and I thought, this is really genius. Here's a company that's offering things that I use every day, versions of them that I think are really valuable, a business that I can just plug and play into, where I'm not creating the company. There are other people invested in creating and growing the company and making the products and delivering them and all this other stuff. And all I have to do is open my mouth and share, which I'd probably be doing anyway, because naturally, as humans, that's what we do. So what I was able to do, which was really great for my musical career, was to start to create this other stream of revenue part-time while still writing, but take the pressure off the writing, right?
Sure.
So it was a totally different place. It's not complicated. Network marketing companies are not complicated or expensive to join. You just have to do the work and really grow yourself to grow your business. But I was able to keep writing at a time when I might have had to do something like, God forbid, take a day job, which was something I wasn't interested in doing.
Sure. After years of working as an artist and making money at it, you don't really want to go back to a 9-to-5.
That's right. So then I got very excited about it, because I saw, a lot of people I know need this kind of thing. And then I grew a big team. I got to the top of my company, blah, blah, blah. But during the pandemic, I felt that same feeling about I have to do this to write a book as I did when I had started writing lyrics. Something happened one day and I woke up and I thought, I must write this. So I did.
Did you feel like you were giving back to the community in some way?
I would more call it paying forward.
Paying it forward.
Because a lot of the people who will read this book are already in the industry, and it's great. And it's rewarding for me to get feedback from people saying, thank you so much for showing me this way of thinking, and for validating network marketing, which a lot of people have been quite suspect about, somehow got a bad rap back in the day, but it's a super smart thing to do, and it's totally legal.
Well, because people used to talk about it as being a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it's not. Those are illegal.
Right, they're illegal.
Yes. So it's not possible.
But you were saying what gave it a bad rap is back in the day, people thought of it as some kind of a con job, but
right.
It's not.
No, it's somebody offering you the chance to do something really smart, right? So I did feel like it was giving back, but also I'm offering something to people who might never have thought about it before. And I realized that the thing that made me different than most people in network marketing is I did have, a Harvard Law degree, a Columbia Business School degree. And so there was a certain kind of validation, for lack of a better word. Like, if I can do this, you can do this. It's real. You can think about this. And in fact, that's what happened for a lot of people who've read it.
And when you started to sit down to write the book, I'm curious about your process in writing the book. Did you work from an outline? Did you figure out what the chapters would be? How did you conceive the book?
Well, that's a great question, Steve. The one thing I did that was, I think, the smartest thing is that I got a book coach. Got a fabulous book coach. Her name is Kim O'Hara, and she's a former film producer, actually. So she thinks in story.
Right.
So she took my desires and helped me form a book that was part memoir, part how-to. And I really credit her with helping me think through that. And just like it was a lyric draft, we batted things back and forth over and over and over. I cannot recommend her highly enough.
Wow. So in other words, it was helpful to think of it or construct your book as if you were constructing an actual story.
Sure. And also, dare I say, a song. Like, this is one of the songs of my life.
Well, songs tend to be stories too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that I've learned through my network marketing career, because it is a personal growth journey as much as it is a journey into business, because you can only grow your business as much as you've grown personally. But what I learned is that you really have to allow a new story to come through you to define you, right? So many people I know are stuck in that place of, oh, I used to be fill in the blank. I could never fill in the blank. I'm not the kind of person who fill in the blank, right? I had to get over those demons in myself.
Well,
now I can show other people how to tell a different story.
People, myself included, tend to put your own obstacles in the way for whatever reasons, various reasons, and you have to overcome your own obstacles.
Right. And you can't BS yourself, or you can, but then you're not going to get anywhere. And what I love about network marketing is that it's a community thing. If you're with the right company, you have a whole community of people with you looking to guide you. Not so much in music sometimes, because people see it as, if you get this, I don't. But in network marketing, it's not a zero-sum game.
It's a different form of what I think of as competition. In the arts, there is a competitive edge to the arts. You're saying network marketing, there's less competitive edge. Is that right?
There's no competition because there's room for everybody. I don't know the same people you know. You're not going to talk about something the same way I will. Everybody's out in the world buying stuff or getting services. There are some insurance companies that are network marketing companies. There are obviously things like my company is a health and wellness company, right? It's clean products, it's vegan stuff, but there are many, many other kinds of companies out there. You can get your dishwasher detergent from a network marketing company. It's everything. And so it's big enough for everybody.
Is part of the key to latch onto products that are constantly being renewed, replenished?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, for me anyway, there are companies that do a one and done thing. Like, I know a water filter company that's a network marketing company, and that's, you buy one, that's it, but it's very high priced, right? I love the idea that you would be using what I call daily consumable products, because then, everybody's going to shower, or everybody's going to eat or drink something every day, or everybody needs this kind of stuff, and they're going to go back and order it again. Like, I now have 2 dogs. If there were a dog food network marketing company, I'd probably want to look into that.
Well, because dogs got to eat.
Yeah.
among other things.
3 times a day.
Among other things. All right. So let's spend one moment talking about Amy Sent Me. What is that?
Oh, Amy Sent Me is another thing that just came to me, and largely because I have met so many people over the years in all these different arenas that I've been in. And I very often realize that somebody in one place could be valuable for somebody in another place to know. And it was finally made clear to me that there's a business value to this. And I get so excited about the things that my friends and the people that I meet have to offer in the world, that I just decided to put everybody together. And so I created this company, Amy Sent Me, as a way to communicate the range of things that people I know are doing and offer them to people who might be looking. I call it servers and seekers. So I know a lot of people who are serving the world in a certain way, and I certainly know a lot of seekers. I just don't know who's seeking what from what server at what time. I just know that my job is to connect them. So I've started doing that locally here in LA, but also I have a way for people to just write to me and join a newsletter. It's exciting to me. So it's anything health and happiness related, right?
So you're like a concierge, essentially.
Yes. I introduce people. I listen to what people are looking for. I ask them if they write to me, I ask them a couple of questions, and then I can personally recommend things. And then I also offer things out to everybody, because you never know who is looking for, like a example. I met someone through my network marketing company who's a fellow vice president who also has decided that she's becoming a sober coach. right?
Right.
Fantastic thing. There are a lot of people these days who are looking to dip their toes into sobriety or gray area drinking, as it were. So this is one example. So I was able to offer her program to everybody I knew. Some people I knew decided that they were going to take her program. It's an online thing, right? And she can coach them. But I also have a friend who has retreats that she runs in Costa Rica for yoga. I know people who do pet photography. I know, like, just whatever comes into my world that I think could be valuable to other people in terms of bringing their joy level and satisfaction level up in the world, I'm going to offer it.
And so it's taken you probably most of your life to gather all these people and all this information.
Yes, but I finally have something to do with it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But if you tried to do that when you were 20 years old, it probably wouldn't have worked very well.
No, not at all. And I think because I was in all these competitive places, first law, then songwriting, I think even though you are collaborative in writing a song, there's definitely that, oh yeah, but what about that other team? So-and-so and so-and-so. All that made me not understand, or not see so clearly that we're all really here to serve each other. Now, at my age, some people are retiring. I feel like I'm just getting started because I'm so excited about what I think I can contribute through this connection.
Well, I think that's really great. And how would people contact you at Amy Sent Me?
They can email me at Amy, A-M-Y, Lynn, L-Y-N-N-E, powers@gmail.com. And I'll send them back something about Amy Sent Me that they'll be able to sign up with.
Excellent. So I've been having the most marvelous, fun conversation with Amy Powers for a little more than an hour now. We're going to wind this show down. And, clearly you have met tons of people and worked with an enormous number of people in the business. And I'm wondering if you have a story that you can share with us that's either weird, quirky, offbeat, oddball, or just plain funny.
How's this for quirky? This is about the spiritual dangers of being a lyricist, I guess you would say. When I was summoned to London to work with Andrew Lloyd Webber on Sunset Boulevard, I really was summoned. I got to his house the first night, and he lived in Kensington Gardens, very, very posh area. And I'm asleep, dead asleep in my room because of jet lag. And I wake up in the middle of the night, and there is definitely a presence at the foot of my bed. Something weird is happening. Terrifying, as a matter of fact. Scary, like a ghost. And I don't even believe in ghosts. I was so freaked out, I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. And the next morning, I was speaking with Andrew's driver, who has lived there from time to time when Andrew was gone. And I said, I know this is crazy, but I feel like there was a ghost in my room last night. And he said, oh yeah, we know about that. We've had this place exorcised 3 times already. Can't get rid of it.
Did you see the ghost?
No.
Just felt it.
Yes. And then that guy went on to tell me all kinds of crazy stuff that had happened in the house that proved the existence of the ghost. It was a place with an elevator, and he was there alone. And one time his newspaper, which he had left on the bottom floor, suddenly when he got up to the top floor, was in the room in front of him. Yeah, when he was doing the crossword in, right? Like it was that kind of thing. What can I tell you? So there are dangers. Please beware, and maybe you don't want to stay in the houses of the people that you're writing with.
Me, I'm selling that house. If that's my house, I'm selling. It's going on the market. No. Wow, that's a great story. So last question for you today, Amy. Do you have a solid piece of advice or a tip that you like to give those who are starting out in the business, or maybe they're in a little bit and trying to get to the next level?
Well, I'd say 2 things. One is connect, because you never know who is the person who's going to be the right one to make everything in the world open for you. So by connect, I mean, go to all the things, research where you can meet people. Like the BMI musical theater workshop was fantastic for me. I also did the ASCAP musical theater workshop. I also did things online, also make your life a yes and of connection, I think I would say. And the other thing I would say is redefine no. So we all have the choice in the story of our lives to say no means this or no means that. No means next, like, that wasn't the right thing anyway, do something else, right? Go on. Or no means no for now, come back to it later. Or maybe this person and I will do something later, right? No means nothing. I don't care how many people say no. I know what I have is a yes, right? You can tell yourself any story at all. So choose smart things when you talk to yourself about no.
Well, those are two very wise pieces of advice. And I think anybody that's coming up in the business needs to learn how to basically say yes and no. And sometimes it's really hard to say no because you want to please people and who may want to help you. And it's hard to say no to them. And
it's hard to say no to them. And it's hard for no to be said to you.
Sure.
But sometimes you say yes to things that you really should be saying no to.
This is true.
You're afraid there'll be nothing else, but there'll always be something else.
Well, I think anybody that's been freelance in the arts in any kind of the arts tends to say yes to everything that comes their way because they don't know if it's going to be the last time they'll get asked to do something. So you tend to say yes to everything. And sometimes you have to be just a little judicious about it.
Yeah. Trust your gut.
Amy Powers, this has been just a fantastic hour on StoryBeat, and I can't thank you enough for coming on with me today and sharing all of your experiences and wisdom and your life story. It's just been terrific.
Thank you so much, Steve. I had a blast. If you ever want to do a round 2, let's go.
Well, we very well might. So anyway, as promised, if you would sit back now, please, and enjoy Amy's lovely song, The Sands of Time, written with her son, Jasper.
Walking in a cold wind and I feel the sunshine. Yeah, I've been stuck down in the earthbound. Heaven always on my mind. That doubt like a dark cloud falling over my heart. Well, it's lifting all the time. 'Cause your hands, your face fill me right up. Yeah, your smile, yeah, it takes me somewhere far beyond. You've come to me to be forever mine. I have been waiting, never let you go, because this is how we'll find a way to reach back through into the sands of time. I have been waiting for you, lifetimes away. I will be waiting for you, anywhere, anytime. I hear what you say. This world is a sweet dream when it's me and you. We speak in a whisper, and everything we say comes true. Each day is a new way, a beautiful design upon the sands of time. I have been waiting, never let you go, because this is how we'll find a way to reach back through into the sands of time. I will be waiting for you, lifetimes away. I will be waiting for you, anywhere, anytime. I hear what you say. Someday when you miss me, just turn on this song. Yeah, some hard night when the light is feeling ever gone. I'll come to you, come through the sands of time. I will be waiting, never let you go,
So we've come to the end of today's Story Beat. If you like this episode, won't you please take a moment to give us a comment, rating, or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great StoryBeat episodes to you. StoryBeat is available on all major podcast apps and platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, and many others. Until next time, I'm Steve Cuden, and may all your stories be unforgettable.